They hop onto the dusty grounds like brave explorers, and suddenly everything feels like adventure when they see that strange place. So, when they're desperately seeking a dry spot inside this sturdy house, they think it's the only safe haven available right now. When they walk into that room where the story begins, they discover a brave young man standing there, and they immediately think he's a good fighter. The group's leader nudges their friend gently toward the door and says, "Please come over here for one more night." He tells us he's trying hard not to get wet during his talk about avoiding the rain. Your friend keeps his mouth shut once he hears the question being asked. The little guy is trying hard to act like an adult when everyone else acts like children. A guy in charge of the group thinks he's been sent to guard an old-school, shut-down academy. But after looking around at his team, he quickly decides their attitude isn't exactly right. He was never told anything, but that he'd finally found his place in this new world, settling down just a while back so everyone knew him as just another guy with their own rules. He tells them the pavilion isn't part of their contract, so they can still visit the rest of the estate. The leader of the group smiles at his friend for sharing a nice meal and then hands over the secret map so everyone else can find their way safely away from the dangerous pavilion. The guys step forward in total respect for their leader. Oh, the MC takes a careful glance at the badge tucked into his shirt to figure out what clan the entire group belongs to. So far, he keeps his mind open and eager to know exactly who these people are. Your friend isn't done wasting hours checking out when he goes inside. Don't be discouraged by his lack of enthusiasm yet. He steps into his dark sleeping chambers and begins to whisper a gentle story about feeding the little ones, making sure their hearts are soft before they even wake up. He jumped out with such delight at the sight of those children, making his own heart skip a beat just thinking about them. A sudden shock turned the entire room into a wild pack of animals whose names were all his own. He grabs a tin jar brimming with ant army and zooms into action before he even sees them. He reaches for the first bucket and sees a spider staring straight at him. This giant creature, known as the Black Earth Tiger, lives only on Hainan in mainland China. The big Black Earth Spider. It's a giant creature up to 20 centimeters tall, but don't think you'll be able to touch it because all its stripes are just as wild as a real tiger's. A big grin spreads across his face as he tosses a tiny bug into the spider's cage. Though he feels empty on his own, knowing the insects are around him makes him feel whole. The spider took a big bite of the ant and left us all happy with nothing left to do. The spider seems to be deeply impressed by its own massive growth, though that giant expansion was never just one big step. It had first shrank down to tiny fingers and then finally bloomed into something far larger than any of us can imagine. He finishes feeding the spider and heads straight for the next pet. The door swings open to reveal a gecko named Bewangling Cave Gecko, who lives in the wild and has stripes all over his body and tail. We found it hard to get that cute little gecko because he was so broke back then. It set up a perfect hint later that this wasn't his first adventure. We know when we go outside to find all those geckos right away, and it feels like a big victory for our guys. But we also know they're just glad they see how much the animals are growing. You see what happens when a little bug jumps right into a snake's mouth. It doesn't just bite, it actually eats. His scream echoed with a sharp ache that reminded him of when he was younger, making the memory feel real and heavy on his chest. Our MC was already a million streaming celebrity before even stepped onto that stage, and while he claimed to be a top-notch biotech expert named Spicy Fabre, he quickly turned his attention toward the camera instead of just talking about science. Spicy's biggest adventure involved chasing down dangerous poison insects and creatures that can kill you instantly. But he suddenly found himself in a bit of trouble. The host stood behind a monitor, holding up his hand as he announced that his audience had grown to 1 million new subscribers today. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the creator was preparing to launch a live broadcast dedicated to revealing the 10 most terrifying venomous snakes that have ever lived in the world. During the stream, his chat keeps asking him to show them the black mamba snake. They start calling him names that he has deceived them. Of all the venomous snakes that Spicy has in his collection, the black mamba is the most dangerous. Even his trip to Africa to find it was not easy. Realizing that his viewers will not back down from the request, he pauses the stream to look for the black mamba. His viewers promise to stay there until he comes back. The Spicy guy is darting about the house in a frantic search, but as someone else starts to guess he'll be caught, his friends ask why he's wasting time looking for something that's just around the corner. As the snake keeps digging its way into the fridge to find the hidden treasure, he finds himself unable to resist and bites his own hand right there in the middle of the cabinet. He heard his name echoed through the phone as the screen flashed with a screeching pain, instantly realizing someone had bit him. Spicy stumbled down the rough stone floor and hit the soil, but his life never truly ended. The world fades as he stands frozen mid-feeding, eyes wide, and suddenly knocks at the door. The guy's spicy walk leads him straight to the door where the leader of the group is standing and watching him. The man loves Spicy for bringing the food home, so when they're done and ready for dinner, he asks Spicy if she'd like to sit down with them. The wolf sneezed and told everyone about the elusive deer hiding under the rock. The sound of spicy food made him jump, and then his whole face lit up with pure excitement because he's already been eating lizards and snakes for so long now. The guy didn't waste a second looking for another choice. Instead, he gave him all the respect by saying, "We'll make sure to give you the best deal on this deer meat." The leader guides Spicy toward the forest where the deer is about to be roasted. Spicy's lips twitched as he watched a wild deer burn bright, making him lean back and wait for his favorite moment to happen. The leader watches with delighted eyes as Spicy bursts into a wide grin and looks around at everyone's surprise. Spicy was waiting outside his kitchen when the boss walked in and told him the meat needed a little longer to cook. Before the meat finished cooking, the leader asked Spicy some simple questions that were just about the food. A fierce mountain leader pulls up to the edge of a snowy peak and waits for his friend, Spicy, who steps out from behind a thick pine tree. The leader asks Spicy if he lives alone in that Hainan mountain range. Not knowing Spicy's exact age, he just says about 14 or 15 years old, letting him play with the wildflowers as the sun sets over the peaks. The leader gasped when he realized Spicy wasn't telling him how old she was. He told a funny story about being a kid and accidentally hitting his head while playing, so he never remembers much about himself anymore. Spicy said yes about him being alone, meaning he has no talent at all, so he's stuck by the mountains hunting snakes and trading their skin as a way to earn his own money. Oh wow. The leader was absolutely shocked to see Spicy do such a reckless thing like snagging snakes. Think of what kind of dangerous job he'd be doing right now. The spicy sauce told the leader it was safe, and he stopped being scared of it. Moments after everyone gathered, the group's elder handed out a tray of grilled meat for Spicy. As expected, he lit up with a warm, happy grin. The old man watched the plate of spicy food as a realization dawned on him that his own hunger was more than enough to make him stop eating anything else. Spicy was staring at that huge pile of meat, and he wasted no time grabbing the piece right away instead of letting it sit out. Spicy felt so good because his mouth was brimming with juicy meat, making him feel happier than anyone else ever. You can tell the other guys they're amazed at how Spicy's cooking turned out. They told him the other way around and said, "We're looking for something." Doesn't that sound like a question they're asking before they get to see what's actually real? The spicy guy is stumped by the puzzle, but his tough boss has a brilliant trick to untangle the mess he's built. The old man quietly tells the leader that Spicy had been kind and therefore deserves to be heard. He adds that Spicy might not understand what they're saying, so there's no risk of trouble ever happening. Plus, Spicy can't talk to anyone because he lives alone by himself. The leader finally agreed to spill the beans to Spicy about the secret he was keeping up close to his heart. They're definitely looking for that specific blue centipede in the local woods. Spicy was stunned by the news because the giant centipede he just spotted must be exactly what he was searching for. A spicy cat jumps into a meeting with a talking centipede, asking exactly how much bigger the giant creature needs to be so he can swallow a small kid. The leader tells him he's found an adult one that's big enough for him, but it seems like the little boy might still be too young to handle a beast of this size. Fear gnawed at him as he watched the tiny bug grow, so huge it was almost too big to see. It was the moment that suddenly clicked into his mind. He could have been centuries past, but as the leader looked at Spicy's startled face to apologize for the scare, it seemed like a real, dangerous time had come. The elder smiled at Spicy and told him not to worry, because they were already watching the centipede for sure. The spicy man tries to ask them if they'll actually catch a centipede and raise it all along. Yet that sound feels completely ridiculous when they hear it. Two people laughed while staring at a chance that Spicy told them about. The old man paused and looked at the small spider, realizing he didn't need to fight one, but could simply use its venom to heal his wounds before turning back toward the tentacles. Spicy heard the news and felt a pang of disappointment, even though he was sure the men were betraying him. Spicy has to ask her why she thought the centipede could heal anything in the first place. The elder replies with low hope, but reveals that his granddaughter is critically ill, so they must locate the true cause. The only thing that can save her is the centipede's inner core, a crystal forged from accumulating chi in spirits who once were animals. Spicy stared at Ellers and suddenly realized his granddaughter was sick with a cold before anyone else noticed. Because the older one is the father of the leader, that proves the young woman is really his own daughter. Spicy was thinking to himself and realized the men were trying to feed the girl whatever they could snatch while she was dying out there. Spicy wasn't sure centipedes had any real medicine value, but since parents would do anything for their kids, they gave in to whatever they could get now. Spicy usually makes people feel sick, but because the men paid him a generous meal, he decides to help them. So the leader finally asks Spicy about the centipede, and he said no. The leader sighed loudly of frustration as he heard this, while Spicy immediately tried to cheer him up with a new plan. He told the two men that he had been looking for the centipede all along and was sure about a way to get there. Even after the venomous bite that took his life, Spicy insists on being the perfect candidate for anything serious. Apparently, there are roughly 8.5 million creatures total, with only 20,000 being known for their deadly power. Spicy thinks every creature in this world belongs on his list, even though he's not sure if centipedes make any sense as exceptions at all. When it comes to these dangerous creatures, Spicy stands as the ultimate villain in the story. He turns Spicy and dives straight in a box full of centipedes. He flips through the book quickly, finding exactly what he was looking for in a matter of seconds. He stares at the two men waiting for his turn and says, "I think I know where the centipede is." The two instantly started chasing what the guy wanted to tell them. The kids hurried over and asked the little boy where he could find his little centipede. Spicy waits patiently until both of them arrive at the location and give him the exact time when they search for the set area. Yes, they really made sure to look at both sides of the map as well as stay active during the day. Plus, they paid special attention to the banks along the northern river. Spicy stared at the floor as he realized why the centipede had never been seen before. The man told him there was no other way to find the centipede after all their searches, which made his colleague instantly furious and demanded the reason he keeps searching for the same place. You don't need a big party just for the spicy taste. It's that delicious spice that makes everyone happy. He began by telling people that centipedes are part of the arthropod world and the Colopida group, so they usually make their homes in big areas. Plus, they're chilly, which means they absolutely need a dry place to stay warm. Another way they stand out from other bugs is how little protection they actually get. While most creatures are coated in waterproof layers, these insects simply let water seep through their fragile shells. The secret to how these little detectives hide in dry caves? It's a simple truth. They love warm, damp spots like a cozy living room, but hate standing on the wet floor or being exposed to rain. They can't even find their way home if there is no water at all. Spicy tells everyone that finding a centipede is less likely in the jungle or near the river, so he's happy to put this fact together with all the other ones. As the elders listened to Spicy's final words, he paused on his forehead and saw the horror. It was almost impossible to find the centipede when there were so many rotten wooden cracks everywhere. Spicy told him it wasn't all wrong. He could easily spot tiny signs right there, even though the group was hunting for a massive treasure and couldn't hide from the jungle and riverbanks. The men are baffled because after Spicy told them all about his story, he suddenly asks, "Where do you think we can go to find that blue spotted centipede?" They told him the prize could only come when he finds something right in front of his face. He laughs with a grin that makes his eyes crinkle, then points sharply toward the western sky before turning back to face the crowd. They're telling him they must look north at the Rocky Mountains because they need to know for sure where the danger lies. It turns out that those tiny little feet love finding a cozy spot on warm rocks at night before they rush home all over again. The men gathered their supplies and raced toward the blue-spotted centipede. But as they chased it, the group was actually working together to build a tall pole-like rock where the leader, Aura, stood watching the chase from above. 3 days have passed, and they still aren't finding any results when they were looking for clues. The leader stares at Spicy, wondering why he seems so far off the mark with his actions. He speaks his way to his guys, telling them to shoot that red flag and pull up a squad of scouts together. You are right. They follow their plan and then light up a signal to tell the lead older man what to do next. The men are already stretched out from the fight, so they wonder if Spicy really knows exactly what he's doing. It's a strange mystery for them to not find the centipede when Spicy finally realizes exactly what he meant. Huin, the daughter of this fierce leader, has earned the title of the only genius ever born in the Tang dynasty. The leader stood in a stormy field and stared at nothing but an empty ceiling. Realizing he had lost his way, he wondered how far the stars had gone beyond remembering his precious daughter. Soon after they walked into the camp, the old man and his team were already waiting for them. The old man crumbled his face in despair because he couldn't figure out how to locate the centipede. Maybe Hayne's life will end quickly, so the old man thinks the spider could be found within 10 more days. The leader then suggested they head toward the south next morning. The search results are surprisingly empty, so he decides to push them toward the south instead. What happened next? Something jarring and sudden struck the old man right in front of him. His eyes widened as he caught the missing clue while running for cover. Then he turned to his son and said, "We found it." The leader asked his father, "Did you hear that noise?" Even though he said nothing, he still didn't feel the presence at all. The old man keeps talking and says, "I'm sure I can get somewhere." He asked his son if anyone had spotted something strange during those 3 hours, but he answered that everything was fine. It's a shame they didn't find anything smaller than an animal poop pile nearby. It was only when the sun finally broke through the clouds that the leader realized their own footprints were gone. The elderly elder reinforced his point with a look that said clearly, "This makes no sense because there's only one mark left after all. There's actually another reason why animals like us don't have territories, because we're just small and harmless creatures who live together peacefully without any special rights or boundaries." In fear of that territorial beast, every other creature had run away from the spot, whether it was because the group had fled or if they were now all prey for the blue-spotted centipede. The elder gently patted his son's back, telling him the centipede was still hidden there. The elderly man held a firm belief that he was ready to finally rescue Huan from danger. Then, a mighty gust blew over the spot and brought on a frightening shadow. The crowd freezes in shock as they scramble to make sense of the terrifying moment unfolding before them. A sudden roar blasts through the room and shatters the old fireplaces, sending the boys flying into the shadows while they scream for help. Oh, when those hooves suddenly burst onto the ground and we see them for real, everything clicks into place perfectly. The boys finally see their face right next to that amazing blue-spotted centipede. The crowd around them instantly goes silent because every single face is frozen in terror as they suddenly understand the terrifying reality. This centipede isn't just scary. It's far larger and much more dangerous than anyone could have imagined before seeing it. Spicy lies sprawled on his tired bed, staring up as his family rushes past with wide eyes to see that a giant centipede has already spotted him and is scurrying away. The alarm in the room doesn't just come from outside. Someone else is screaming inside him, yet he thinks everyone else is too busy to hear what's actually happening. Spicy thinks his own heartache has made him care more than ever now. Yet when the centipede walks past the door, he still wants to catch a bite before it gets too late. After a hard fight against the centipede, the guys managed to knock it down, though the battle left them hurt. They then gathered all the stuff from inside the monster that had been waiting for them. The elders were already overflowing with happiness as they realized the last thing they needed was a single moment to save Hyan, even though tears started falling from everyone's face at once. He shows his son to the Sichuan estate where his injured brothers are waiting, and the old man steps in to listen while he realizes what he must do next. A man tells us that a bad thing gets written onto our bones, and something good stays carved into the rock, so he reminds everyone to think carefully about what they'll keep forever. It fell like thunder as the old man woke up, wondering why his granddaughter had been so distracted over that big favor and completely ignored who actually made it happen. The old man agreed that inviting Spicy as his guest would make things nicer. The leader had already instructed his soldiers to move injured men back to the village for care, while he headed straight to Spicy to make his plan happen. That sunny morning, Spicy stood there holding a basket full of 3 little blue-spotted centipedes that were sticking out all over him. He is so thrilled that tonight, after finally becoming the father of 3 tiny blue centipedes, he feels his whole world fall apart. He's still thinking about how much time he spent cleaning those eggs for the night before the next day came along. The morning broke with a gentle tap, and then the world settled around him, ready to catch those little creatures that were already there. Spooky's eyes widened as he stared at the egg, thinking for a moment before realizing how quickly it had sprouted. The tiny hatchlings swarmed the table like wild beasts, blocking all of Spicy from getting a breath of air. Spicy worries about the centipedes getting stuck to him so they could treat him like a little pet. Apparently, a few moments prior, Spicy left the academy right when the leader and his men were battling the blue-spotted centipede. Since he'd been fascinated by the creature, he had to go and investigate it on his own. He finally found a safe place where the giant centipede had made its hide. Inside the dark hideout, he stumbled upon 3 soft-shelled eggs. Spicy got out of his hideout after the cricketer fought him off and saved his eggs. That was the day when he went back to the school garden to tidy up his breakfast eggs. He was upset because he didn't see a blue-spotted centipede, yet he managed to have some babies instead, and now the tiny hatchlings have gathered right around his neck. He watches the hungry centipedes because his food supply is still low, so they have to work hard to get ready for their next meal. But he's really mad at how the centipedes cling so tight to him. The old man decides to bathe himself and hopes that the tiny centipedes will slip away from him while he lies down. The leader bursts into the gym when an injured man in bandages tries to hide behind him, causing everyone to look over at the still-waking athlete. The door slipped open and he scrambled back into the room without finding anyone inside, calling out desperately until someone answered. He stepped into the quiet room where an array of fresh herbs and old jars were waiting to be enjoyed. He assumed Spicy was a doctor and therefore kept her herbs with him. It feels like the man can't step into Spicy's room without asking for his approval first. As he was about to step away from his desk, a soft rustle sounded right behind him. He decided to peek inside a jar, only to find a spider there, which made him scream in shock before he went on to explore another container. He steps into the strange enclosure, but keeps digging just one more time to see if something new is hiding there. The man was utterly stunned when he saw those creatures, and he immediately wondered why Spicy had unleashed them in such a dangerous way. Even the most powerful clan in Tang history knows how dangerous poisons are, yet they can still pull out a single drop of poison from their own hands. Spicy doesn't know how to help other friends hatch those eggs. Instead, he knows exactly what they need to do for them to grow up. It's a rare moment when the sun finally breaks through the clouds over the valley, revealing for the first time that Spicy isn't just a ghost, but the real hero who turned everything around. Just then, Spicy jumps out of the shower, but his arm is already broken. He stares at the man who just asked why the injury happened. The leader whispers to Spicy, "Don't worry, I'm fine," while quietly hinting at a secret he must share with you. Suddenly, the leader felt a strange, familiar warmth coming from around them. A terrifying figure bursts into the hall, without warning, and stares down everyone at once. This guy with jet black hair and that twisted grin looks exactly like the devil himself. The leader suddenly sees the danger at hand and shouts, "Run away," before Spicy can even move his feet. But the demon man was lightning fast and got there before anyone could even blink. The leader stood at a terrible disadvantage because of his broken arm, so all he could do was desperately parry the demon man's attack. No matter how hard he pushed against the wall to stop the blast, his body kept feeling the sudden sting of the impact. He slammed a fist into the air and blasted out an explosive energy wave that threw rocks and dust everywhere. The injured leader coughed up blood after being beaten by demons who held their fathers at arm's length, proving they were truly powerful rivals. He tried to stop Spicy from warning him, but the time had turned too late for a last-ditch attempt. The demon grabbed Spicy and choked him up like a little bug. A demon man stepped forward and told everyone about a Tang clan arriving at their doorstep, only to leave the party stunned because the leader wasn't ready for what was coming. The leader was utterly stunned by how well the demon man knew everything about them. When things went wrong, he immediately told the demon there was nothing more he could do. Yet he wasn't ready to accept reality at all because the demon was clearly on their side too. He felt heartbroken because the leader didn't spot him on his face, but instead revealed himself as a true blood Rashesa to Kunyang and admitted that the elder had shaped his looks to fit his role perfectly. He turned around and froze at the sound. Thinking about the scary story he had just heard, Takamang had crashed through the roof of his home while getting hit by a poisonous palm tree. That made him feel even more shocked than the news was already spreading in town, because he never thought anyone would still be alive. The man tells his friend that everything is over and he's ready to let Spicy go without a word, though the other guy refuses because they have never met each other. The killer isn't afraid of anything he does to anyone else. In fact, he wants to make sure no one ever touches the Tang clan again. Spicy gasped as the fire got too much, making him almost collapse under the weight of the burning heat. And suddenly, those tiny centipedes burst out from Spicy's body, launching a deadly charge that bites off the demon man right in the face as they tried to escape his hold. The giant demon couldn't believe it when Spicy used tiny centipedes to strike him. Even though he thought those little pests had no power over him, they vanished before he could grab them, and instead unleashed a venomous bite on him. A mysterious liquid hit the demon man, knocking him completely out of balance. He's gonna die quickly when the liquid hits him. Spooky horror turns into panic when a mysterious voice asks, "Is that really a bad person?" before spookily asking the leader for confirmation. Spicy didn't know what was worrying his captain, so he kept trying to think of a better plan for his own team. What he just witnessed was truly insane to him, and he finally understood why Spicy couldn't just sit as a casual guest for the clan. The leader wants to push for Spicy joining the Tang clan right now after seeing what happened last week. A few days later, when the dark figure that killed the demon man finally vanished, Spicy found his clan leader resting in a dim room, clutching a heavy bundle of blood that had cost him everything but the rest of the family. The boy gratefully thanked Spicy for taking care of him, yet the young man pressed hard, telling him exactly where his friends were so he could keep an eye on them. Just as Spicy wondered why he couldn't leave his leader alone, the same worry made him unable to call a doctor. The leader noticed this concern immediately and urged him on, promising that he would heal soon after some time. /S, when the brave lead team finally gets out of bed, Spicy is shocked to see the leader breathing easier despite how much they've lost. He tells everyone the captain is still alive and fighting hard for his position, though nothing changes at all. His tough boss says he can't be worried about anything since he's already a master fighter. Spicy is stunned by the news and immediately asks the leader if those flying men are actually the very same people who are shooting fireballs at him. The leader smiled, laughing as he pointed out, Not every person can say exactly the same thing Spicy is doing, but he managed to get the idea just right. As the leader agreed with his assessment, Spicy suddenly realized he was living somewhere else entirely. Then the leader says, "Spicy, I owe you my life for saving you all along." And immediately, he grabs a formal pen and paper to write down his own introduction. Spicy finally snaps out of a mystery and learns he isn't Tang Chaos Son, though the others know exactly who they are, so we'll keep going with Wei Young instead. Chielson figured out the secret behind Spicy's name because he thought it sounded perfect. Kyoen suddenly shouts that he has many questions waiting for Spicy, so Spicy agrees to let him go ahead and ask whatever Kyoen wants before he can begin. As soon as Kyoen starts asking the questions, Kyoen spots a swarm of centipedes crawling all over Spicy's body and screams in fear at his mistake. Spicy asked him if the centipedes were poisonous, and he answered right away. But then he told them they're actually just a few little blue-spotted children from another world. Cheelin jumps out of the bed when he hears that Spicy has finally stopped the blue-spotted centipedes. Spicy urges him back to his chair, but he keeps asking what he did so easily. He asks Spicy how he caught the centipedes and where they came from all over. Spicy didn't just wait. He waited with a big grin because he knew he'd get another chance if that poisonous monster ever showed up. He asked Chosen exactly what's going on in the story, and since Spicy has nothing to hide, he was ready to share his secrets along the way. Chelson was looking at the book with a mix of surprise and excitement when he heard the warning about its length, even though the author didn't seem to care about it either. He told Cheel about his mother's eggs, which turned out to be blue and spotted, and she said they are spicy. Chelson can't believe Spicy knows how to guess when the eggs will come out. He smiled as he tried harder to get your attention through the crowded shop, knowing that nothing would ever be enough. The lizard keeper puts a pair of tiny green monsters onto the table and says, "Here we go." He showed Chaos a spotted lizard with stripes while the other had a plain one. He says to the Chaos, "I'll have my own wild beasts grow up from your babies." Cholon stares blankly as he sees a new feature in Spicy's creation. Cheel's son then asks Spicy, "Can we make these stronger by pairing them together?" Spicy was terrified by the question, so instead of rushing to give him a straight answer, he told Cheelon that the theory had been proved. Spicy had nothing left to do but agree to help Kyoen raise the terrible beast he just started talking about, even though realizing breathing was impossible would mean he couldn't finish speaking for them. He was eager to get Spicy involved in his family, so he didn't waste any time talking about it. Spicy is shocked when Cheel's son asks him why he wants to join the Tang clan. In return for joining them, he'll get everything they know, plus Kale's son promises Spicy that he can access any elixir or poison he wants. Chaolong keeps going on by declaring that spicy food is exactly what it needs to catch or tame those legendary poisonous beasts found in the center of the plains. He then spoke sweetly to the deal until he finally agreed, knowing that giving Spicy his daughter, once a flower in the center of the plains, is a very special and wonderful thing for him. Suddenly, Spicy snaps and tells Chielson to hold back the Spicy moment before his daughter gets involved in a huge deal. Cheelon thinks he's just chasing the conversation because he added her there, but then Spicy shoves him away and says no more about her. The Central Plains is full of incredible, deadly monsters, and Chielson asks his MC exactly whether they rival the mighty blue-spotted centipede. And that little spider is ranked higher in importance among all the deadly venomous beasts roaming the Central Plains. Spicy jumps up as he hears the roar of giant scorpions and the sweet glow of a golden frog, instantly feeling a spark of wonder in his mind. Cheelon told him these strange creatures were much more fantastic than anything he imagined inside himself. Cheelon smiled brightly and thanked Spicy for his help. 2 days later, Spicy and Chielson sat down at the table along with their fellow villagers from the village. The villagers were completely stunned as the sight of the terrifying demon man suddenly appeared in their living room. Cheelon told a scary tale about a man named Tak who claimed to have nearly hit the top of the world when he started working on his martial arts, but then vanished without a trace while the story continued. As the clan gathered and listened to the news, their hearts began to race with excitement. They didn't just wonder what happened to the enemy, but also felt a strange sense of pride that it was because Chaos had climbed far higher than anyone else. They cheer for him, yet Chaos humbly explains he haven't changed from before, while Chelson drops a devastating revelation about everything going wrong. He told them that Spicy wiped out T, which left everyone stunned because no one believed a young man could handle such a lethal threat like him. They gathered to say thank you to Spicy as he saved our leader from the trouble. Just as Cheelon called for the boys, Spicy's voice suddenly cut through the air to reveal a shocking truth. Spicy notices that the door creaks open and reveals 3 tiny, bright blue centipedes hiding inside the room. The boys can't believe they're talking about a dead centipede. They wonder just how amazing Spicy's skills are. Chilin opens up and tells Spicy how much he likes his own gift, just so everyone knows what's coming next and why they should all come together for this chance. Chilson tightens his grip and shows off that a vibrant blue light surrounds him as he shares a moment of relief with his friends. Spicy noticed a strange thing going wrong and immediately asked Chilson if he was still searching for the missing item. Chilson steps forward and shouts about the dreaded blood hand poison claw, noting that using this terrible skill requires taking human blood and bone marrow from people. His teeth snap open wide in shock when he realizes the mysterious martial artist Chilson is actually a dangerous monster. Chilson warns that if Tak leaves behind any scrolls or disciples, things will become much more dangerous, forcing them to cut off every last trace of their practice so that the evil martial arts cannot return to the world again. In addition to that, Shilin insists everyone caught must help each other. The man walks over and says, "Spicy, I think you'd like to help since you know so much about this island." He pauses, then looks back at him with a serious expression. "Well, you're going to be forever attached to the clan if you join us." Chilson hears a Spicy whisper telling him Spencer wants to come help, but he knows his own heart is still too rough for the new challenge. Shion laughs at Spicy's words and says, "You're right, Spicy. I did make the perfect choice. Spicy sauce is always ready to help, but only when it's doing its job of saving lives." Spicy wants to learn why he's doing things so wrong by observing the Tang clan. Before he decides to go all in, he has to make sure the people around him really care about their family. 3 days have passed since Kyoan regained his strength, marking the very moment they must head into action when their group arrives at a sleepy village right beside an old martial arts training center. They're urgently looking for the hidden basement where the Blood Hand Tuck resides. The villagers are gathered around a fire and whispering eagerly as they watch a news broadcast that suddenly cuts off mid-sentence about a missing person. Years ago, a village chief told everyone that most of the time, only 1 or 2 people get lost in the jungle every single year. Nothing serious at all. Jill's quiet mind worries that something weird might be going on, so she politely thanks the village chief for helping her with a big family project. Although she doesn't see any red flags, the chief agrees to help as long as it is the famous leader of the Tang clan who needs it most. And that's how Chaos and their friends slipped away from the village entirely, leaving everyone behind without a single clue. As the group keeps moving along, they've been trying hard to piece together what ties up all of them. Chaos-sun thought it might be here because he could find them very fast. Spicy's heart beats fast because he can't find any clues left behind in that place. He isn't giving up yet. Instead, he's plunging deeper into the heart of his fight against T. He pauses as if listening for an answer, realizing maybe the wrong thing happened all along, so he gently nudges Chaos toward what seems like a secret message. Xan remembers that Tox whispered a warning about the Tang people lurking nearby. Deduce that because a stranger said he heard something, someone had to be telling the truth. Spicy wants us to check every single spot along the way before we head over to Hainan, because nothing is more exciting than discovering a new place in our adventure. He said that besides drawing his own picture on the wall for everyone to see, he wanted them to draw another portrait of Tak, so they could ask each other if they had ever met him at all. After listening to all of Spicy's advice, Chilson finally realizes that the young man is truly incredible. Darkness falls over Chaos as Tak suddenly remembers seeing a stranger whispering in the distance, and he freezes, wondering if anyone else knows the truth. Chilson thinks things are already getting easier without rushing to waste more time, so they sprint forward together right away. The group arrives at the sleepy village shortly after getting ready. The villagers are whispering that something very sickly has been taking over the whole village. Kyosin figured out that the village was actually filled with the HLY people. Kyosin tells his men that he won't face danger because Spicy told them that the HLY people will never attack again. They started walking toward that quiet village and immediately noticed how utterly exhausted and lifeless everyone seemed to be. The village hangs in a dark, heavy gloom where even one little spark can't light the way for anyone to leave safely. A group of friends meets the village head in a small town where 2 guys are also around and their granddaughter joins them all. Chilson gently turned back around and said, "Good morning, Mr. Thorne. I'm sorry I've been waiting." Spicy watched helplessly as he talked to the village chief, while the whole place looked like it was going to explode. It turns out that even the little kid next to the village head feels terribly weak. Spooky is stunned by the count of sick folks in the village and begins to ask himself why they're behaving so badly. The villagers might need a strange medicine, so he thinks they're going to take one. The village chief heard all Shurilan was saying and told him it wasn't missing anyone at all, plus the old man said everything else was fine. The old man stared down hard with a stern expression as he urged the crowd to flee. Chilin and his men are finally told by the village chief to stop arguing, because no matter what's in their pockets, they'll never have anything worth chasing while they wait for them to go away. Qilin was stunned by how the old man reacted. She had to reach out to his friend, Spicy, just in case things got serious, knowing he'd never let anyone else step into his shoes while everyone was still on their toes. Even Spicy's surprise over the unexpected shift in dynamics only made her heart skip a beat when she realized this was exactly what he was afraid of facing. Suddenly, Mijin collapsed as her grandmother took a deep breath and looked at him. As the boss of a family business tried desperately to grab his daughter for safety, he begged her mother-in-law to keep her safe so he could finally get to pick up his granddaughter. Shurilan is a kind fellow who knows exactly what it means to be wise in medicine, so when the old man asks, Shurilan shows him just how important the medical science really is at the heart of the Central Plains. The chief sees this and instantly gets curious about the true meaning of healing within that land. Chelson says he's not really a doctor, though, so he wants to see that girl who doesn't know anything. He didn't even bother asking what's wrong with his friend before grabbing the hand of the last one on the list and saying yes. A week ago, the town square was filled with sickness as the badger died, and a new disease began to spread through this quiet village where families were already dying and whole communities were losing their health. Qilin reached out to the village chief, shaking his hand as he urged him to let the girl have her chance. The chief smiled warmly, thanked Qilin for helping, and then ordered the girl brought inside. He also tells his people to lead Chilson and his group straight toward the destination they're meant to reach. The clock ticks out of existence, forcing everyone else to sprint toward the door and grab the girl before her leaves. It's spicy that night when a member of the clan questions how much Qilin actually knows about medicine, and he lets Spicy know that his son is fully capable of handling such things. The way these people handle poison shows how much medical knowledge they truly possess, and yet, even if someone knows a few basic martial arts moves, they still have to start with understanding exactly who they are themselves before learning any medicine at all. Spicy found it amazing how the story changed his life. Even though the clan was usually filled with deadly assassins. Now that he has heard this tale, he decides to switch gears and dive into healing medicine instead of fighting with deadly poisons. Then the clan member explained that some bad guys get injected with poison to test their reaction, and Spicy instantly felt sick because his very own people were doing it too. He wasted no time rushing back to find that the group of scared men he'd met were nothing more than a bunch of monsters. Moments later, Chill's son had successfully steadied the girl. The chief smiles as he hands a handful of chilled fish to the young girl, and then he bends his head in deep gratitude for her kindness. He suddenly turns to his child and shouts, "Make sure your little one gets saved before you forget him." Chilson then revealed something was seriously wrong with the girl's pulse. Did the girl actually have a really weak heart? The village chief pointed out that the girl had already been ill for over half a year, and many others in the neighborhood began to feel unwell at the same moment. He told the villagers that Sean had to stay home early so they could stop getting sick with this strange sickness. Spicy realized that the old man must have been doing something amazing for him. Chilson walked over to the elderly man and said, "Let's get you some great medicine for your heart." Then he told everyone else to come together, but he still wanted each one to take a little portion of the potion first. The chief cries openly as Chaos hands over the key so he can finish the job. One of Chaos's warriors, Gupai, drops down on the sick and asks his companion what symptoms they've got. It turns out Chosen can show up with tiredness and redness in your eyes. Shurilan spoke of the fever and irregular heartbeat alongside his other troubles, so he didn't hesitate in noting that every one of them struggled with their hearts. Qilin pauses and asks Spicy what happened, and Spicy tells him Qilin was just tired from working so hard that he had fallen asleep in the kitchen. Qil's son is amazed by how Spicy keeps pace with the group despite never having learned any real fighting skills. Kaiasen decided to stop by the Spicy guy's room and see what was going on. Kaiasen walks into Spicy's bedroom and finds him curled up asleep right in the middle of a long pillow, exactly as Gupai had promised earlier. Just as Chielson steps out of the shadows and reaches out to Spicy, he does something completely unexpected that makes everyone pause and look at him. A fierce slap on his face knocked Spicy completely awake and started him moving, spinning him to the wall as he stared hard at Chilson and wondered if something was really wrong with the man. The loud roar of spicy fire crackled over the room as it screamed to Chilson why he struck so hard and how much pain it caused in his own body. Chilson rushed over and told Spicy the bad thing happened to his face by bumping into it. Chilson stepped up to Spicy's table, saw the bug lying right on his own cheek, and started explaining everything as it happened. Chilson thinks leaving a swarm of dangerous bugs behind is a disaster. So when he tried to stop them with force, something weird happened and his hand suddenly shot upward on its own. Chilson steps forward and points a finger at Spicy, telling him exactly what he's talking about so Spicy knows right away. Shock instantly clouds Spicy's mind as he looks down at Chilson holding a tiny bug. A sudden spark ignites within Spicy's heart as the story begins anew. Chilson listens intently as Mr. Hedges checks on his patients, trying to find a pattern among the doctor's reactions when someone shows signs of heart trouble. A sudden bite reveals the real culprit. A giant snake in the very center of the village caused all this sickness and destruction. Chilon gasps as she hears the news, knowing Spicy has finally cracked the secret. The mysterious problem isn't just a glitch. It's a special type of bug called the kissing bug. Ah, that little red creature belongs to the family of red bears. It gets its name because it steals blood directly from your eyelids or lips. Those tiny troublemakers are so clever and deadly that they bite with such stealthy precision, just like a true vampire who feeds on only when it's quiet. Spicy tells you that the bugs don't actually spit poison. They're just carrying dangerous parasites inside them. And if someone accidentally bites one, it's easy for them to pick up all those nasty bugs from their poop and get sick. Spicy then further explains to Chilson, Gupai, and the village chief. The bugs cause trypanosmosis, a deadly form of Chagas disease, which is ranked 7th among all the most dangerous animals that ever killed a human. The man with spicy food walks into the village square, where he immediately spots some stray dogs behaving oddly compared to their human neighbors. He leans down and asks, "Do you think these dogs are acting on a similar pattern?" The villagers look at each other nervously as the chief nods firmly in agreement, saying yes exactly like they do. The chief asked himself, "Does this look like a bug?" And then Spicy replied, "Yes." The old man grew increasingly curious, so he asked Spicy, "Can you help me say my granddaughter?" Spicy smiled and said, "Yes, as long as you give her the right medicine." And suddenly, the guy named Spicy noticed that his friend Chilon and Gupai were having an odd discussion. The whole time he sat staring blankly at the table, hearing Chilon shout about the Tang clan, when Spicy had to interrupt him and ask exactly what Chosin meant. After finishing his tale of an amazing family, Chosin hands over the mysterious goo to Spicy, whispering that while some think it's a deadly parasite, others just see it as magic spell work. But here's the real news. Those things aren't bugs. They're actually some of the most dangerous insects ever to be created by bad guys from China. Spicy was shocked as he heard the bad guys feeding the insects to hurt humans instead of just keeping them in line. Chilon nods to the news, knowing that the goo seems amazing, but also that many martial artists might die from it. Those who didn't die ended up becoming killers or betraying their families for evil while trying to fight back. Yet, the Tang family found a way out because they discovered an antidote that saved them from this fate. The doctor says a new treatment could make the tiny worm disappear from their stomach like a soft ball of goo. Chosan thinks his treatment might help because the bug he found is acting like a roundworm too. And that tiny orb? It's said to be cursed because if you get even a scrap of it on your skin, miracles happen. Spicy gets flustered by the new label of the medicine, thinking it sounds a bit too cool for what he actually needs. Chilon tells the chief, "I have nothing to worry about since we'll get back with our grandpa." The village doctor didn't waste time giving the medicine. Instead, he waited until the villagers finally recovered. As they did so, the oldest girl led her grandfather home, and when he finally hugged her tight, tears spilled all over him. After all that waiting, the villagers finally gathered properly at the table and welcomed everyone warmly with delicious food. They turned back on a good note, bringing smiles and cheerfulness back to the group's faces once more. Spicy is happy because he knows they were truly optimistic about their future. At the table, Chill's son refuses to take credit for curing the villagers and insists Spicy is the real hero because he actually found the true source of the problem. It was everyone who turned their hearts towards Spicy, and he gave them all such happiness that they called him the village's savior. Spicy felt very proud after Chelson showed him a piece of paper showing how much he had helped the villagers. He was actually quite happy seeing all of them praise him. Spicy says all these things and feels a little heartache at the end. Spicy laughs with pride because he was whipped high above the crowd by the villagers before falling back down safely. So Spicy walks over and sits down to eat after that conversation. That's exactly the moment the boss reveals his secret to Cheon about who he was talking to before. Jil-sun was searching for places where people had disappeared, so his leader also started looking into that too. He laughed and told everyone about his secret hearing of an old tale. The village leader tells us that a woman usually brings her story from a different place to share with everyone. She remembers how the village lost its residents long ago. That sudden silence instantly grabs Chaos' son's eye. The old man points his finger at the hill below, telling the boy that this tiny place is actually just a few miles away in the western direction. Not long after that chaotic start, Chaos and his soldiers set off on their own mission to locate the old town. Soon they've reached a place that looks almost like a crumbling ruin. As the air thickens with the scent of dead bodies, the party gasps in horror upon finding them all staring back at them. There's a heap of dead people right here. So Gupai stops and tries to keep Spicy from looking around the mess, while Spicy demands to know why. Suddenly, they spot a weird bird chewing on the remains of a snake. The party member couldn't help but burst into rage as he picked up a stone and hurled it at the bird. Chelson tried hard to stop it, yet his efforts were useless because the creature had already gone. The stone lands right next to the bird, causing a dramatic shift in the world around them. Dark shadows seem to creep up from the sky as a flickering white flame erupts in the shape of a bird's nest, setting off a scene of terrifying horror. Chelson took a momentary glance at the chaos unfolding around him before deciding that something was definitely wrong with everything. And suddenly, that wind howled through the air like a great bell, blowing away all the dead bodies so they turned into smoke instantly. Immediately, Chelson spotted this beast with terror on his face. He grabbed Spiky and shouted at everyone, "Get out of here!" Then he revealed it wasn't just any monster, it was a Jianyo. In ancient Chinese legends, the Jianyo isn't just a mythical creature with feathers. It's a literal term for a deadly poison feather, meaning everything associated with it was lethal. That bad bird got all angry and decided to hurt everyone, but the party managed to slip away from its wrath. And right after that, Chaos started making sure everyone knew what was happening when the bird flew off again. He explains that the bird's 5-foot wingspan opens up to reveal a sharp bronze beak, a body clad in gorgeous purple feathers that instantly transforms everything into black when it unleashes its fury. Sitting atop the bird's head is that dazzling golden crown, which clearly shows how real and powerful royalty really are. And because everyone around it knows exactly who they are, this majestic figure earns them the nickname Jin or Yao. Spiny figures realize after listening to all the bird stories that something deeper is happening beneath their own feathers. He asked Chil-san if that bird was one of the deadliest things in nature, and he said yes. Then he told him it stood on the very top of 100 such deadly creatures. The bird earned its title because it was called the King of Venom. Spicy was thrilled to find out he'd finally met the king of the 10 great venomous creatures, because his excitement grew even stronger after seeing what happened. Qilon declares the bird is too deadly and powerful for even poison or snakes on Earth. Yet Spicy is already imagining one that can deliver lethal chemical attacks. Chelson explained that the Jean had been coming to the area specifically because of the venomous snakes. Even though she only ate the poisonous snake's head, this happened right before one of the group players threw a stone at her. Chelsea asks the question about the bird's prevalence, but he replies confidently that no one lives for their whole lives before meeting an odd creature, and even then, they are not common. Most people can only see this rare beast in 100 years at best. The sky seems to be on fire while a storm rages overhead, sending a sudden shockwave through Spicky's entire body. He gasps for air before his head begins to shake violently as he hears all those voices. Then Jelson asks, "Why are you asking about the bird?" Spicy said something truly alarming to everyone, so he asked, "Can you catch this bird?" And as soon as that question was raised, a whole group froze in silence. Chielson has already figured out that Spicy wants to catch this particular bird because he's scared of what it could be like. Chielson told Spicy that if he could find a way out, his curiosity would finally catch up to him. Chosen tells Spicy he has mastered all the Tang clan's poison, so they won't be poisoned by Jen, and that way Spicy will actually get stronger from Jen herself. Chelson waits until Chaos offers his hand to try and teach Spicy his new move, only for Chaos to insist he must follow all house rules before breaking free, though he won't let himself be taught anyway. Spicy thinks hard before asking Chaos whether he'll succeed at learning those tough skills, and then wonders if he can really handle the sharp poison from Jen just by using them. The leader looked desperate and offered his hand for Spicy to join the clan, knowing exactly what everyone was doing behind him. A shy boy being told by others to do the same thing instead of fighting or hiding away. Chelson nudged Spicy and urged them both to act fast before the clock ran out for that lesson. Spicy wanted to stop himself from hesitating, yet he simply couldn't make the Tang clan's technique count against his own skills. Spicy warmly accepted his role as a beloved clan member and soon received a loud, joyful shout confirming they were truly now part of the family and destined for eternity. After that, the party keeps digging through the room until they finally locate Tak Base. A giant explosion knocks everything down in that valley, and one brave guy discovers an old notebook hiding in the dark caves behind it. Tak holds a sealed tome before him. Knowing every secret inside, it is what he truly possesses. As he prepares for his escape, Qilon hands over the book to his guards, signaling that everything Tak has known and written must be taken back safely. Qilon says that all their goals are finished, so they're locked into the secret center of the blue-spotted centipede right now. along with a spare manual from Tang's desk. Spicy decides to go home after seeing what happened at the temple, so he kindly asks him to let him off before they leave, while also packing up their stuff for the night. As the group was almost out of the cave, a shiny reflection caught their eye from afar. He called out to get the leader's eye on it. Chelson grabs a shiny purple feather from Jin's hand and holds it carefully while they look at it closely. Spicy's very first day in the clan means the leader chose to hand him over as a special gift to make everyone feel they were officially welcome home. Chelson tells Spicy he's not actually happy about his own rude way of addressing him. Chelson thinks changing everything is the right move when Spicy finishes his initiation and finds himself suddenly forced to take on another one. Meanwhile, Chilsun's dad finally made it into the Tang clan after a long wait. He's so tired waiting for Huan to answer that he asks again if the girl is still there, and they both confirm it. The old man ran frantically toward the room where the girl was in pain. Huan's mother is stunned by the sight of the man, yet she quickly reassures herself that everything will still go right because he is bringing his own supply of medicine along with him. The old man pulls a box from his pocket and lets go of the tiny blue bug inside before he even looks at its head. The entire group stands frozen in a sea of dread as the old man gently pulls out their precious heart from them. He was so happy to get home because he had made it right before the end. Then he thrust his fist deep into Hainan's throat and laughed maniacally while pulling back to see what happened inside. As soon as she moved, the world dissolved into a swirling, vivid blue mist that clung to every inch of her form before vanishing back into ordinary reality. He points to the medicine, then reaches out to hold his granddaughter's hand as they share a quiet moment of tradition. The medicine keeps spinning out of control, yet the old man can't take it anymore because he desperately needs to catch up with his granddaughter once more. Back to Spicy as he wandered with his clan through the backlands, where one of their members carried him since he couldn't stretch far enough for his own speed, and this vast plain always seemed like a surprise when you didn't expect it to be so large. The team started their journey from Hainan by taking a boat to Hangzhou, and after that, they hurriedly made it through the city of Nanjing. The long trek stretched out like a marathon through the mountains, but by the time they finally crossed into Sichuan, it was time to stop and say hello to their new friend, the Tongluan tribe living there. Spicy walked in expecting a surprise, only to be thrown back against a wall of towering greenery as he realized that the very place he had arrived at was now a world so vast and breathtaking it made him feel dizzy. Spicky tells his neighbors he's told everyone the whole mountain is Tongclan's land. But as the pack surged forward to greet his new master, Spicy felt a deep dread creep into his chest. He was terrified of being tackled by everyone who wanted to meet him right away. Running with them made Huan realize he had finally lost his way and forgot about his dad. When she walks into the room, Dad's heart skips a beat, and that sudden flash of bright white turns his whole smile into a wild burst of pure happiness. She squeezed his hand so hard she nearly broke his arm because he was too excited to let go. The spicy heat in his eyes made him stare at the girl with a dazzling smile, realizing instantly that her incredible beauty is even better than anything anyone else had ever shown him. Spicy found himself having one of the biggest sex scandals ever recorded when he got caught with a famous celebrity years ago. Even the best celeb can't beat that real star's charm. Oh, that was a wild idea. Chaos-san decided he'd introduce Spicy to Hain right then and there. He can't even speak because the fire in his belly burns so hot he's staring at the ceiling with a hawk's gaze, making him look as though an owl has finally found peace after years of flight. Chaos then reminded him that, really, he had taken a keen interest in the poison creatures while staying away from Huan. Spicy felt like he was about to cry tears of joy as the time traveler ran up the wall to fix his terrible mistake. His cheeks were already dripping with sweat as he stared fixedly at Huan, and since he had stopped looking for answers, he couldn't even speak. In a time before the sun rose and shadows stretched long, the young girl Huan stood alone among the tall grass. Her name meant poison to everyone who saw her, yet she was still the only beautiful flower that Kaizen loved so much. She walked through the quiet village carrying a heavy weight that no one understood until now, because being the sole daughter meant she had to face hostility from family members who never knew what she felt. Some people think Chaos needs another woman to be able to carry a child for them. The people only saw Hainin as a pretty lady waiting to be married, never letting them know he could lead the clan or become their great son. The elders knew it was a mistake for Hain to make him decide against them, so he began his training in martial arts with an eager heart to prove he couldn't let anyone step over the line as a lady without being swept aside, even though she was determined to show everyone in her family that she could never be beaten. Huan pushed too hard for the fight when she didn't have time to think, and instead, the anger turned into a terrifying demon that ate away at her. This dark demon began stealing every single chi and left the princess completely bedridden. Good news. Your grandpa arrived with a quick fix exactly when everyone else was running out. When Hayne finally woke up, a heavy tear rolled down her own cheeks as she looked lovingly at her mother and grandfather, Myriad. They felt hurt because she lied and made things worse for them. So she realized today was better than any other day in years. Now things are ruined, and she's thrown off track completely with her inner chi. Her grandfather scolded her about what she did and told her she had hit the 100th poison level so desperately. She looked at him and whispered, "Please wipe those red eyes and make me smile." She felt stunned as she noticed the deep blue shimmer moving through her own form. She was shocked, but before she could even ask for a reason, his grandfather spoke up and told her about the young man who had just saved her from danger. She whispered to herself about the elder's secret potion that could save her and grant the power of 1,000 poison. Yet she still couldn't stop chasing them all the while, because even with this superpower, she'd never quite reached the level of those 100 poisons until Spicy finally gave her what she needed. Back in the beginning, she told a big story about how her grandfather gave her lots of wisdom and tricks before they ever met Spicy. Spicy felt a deep ache trying to understand how beautiful Hyan really looks right now. Finally, when he lets out a breath full of anticipation and smiles, he warmly greets the little girl by name. Spicy lets the girl know he's really pleased she's seen him well and alive. Huen suddenly giggled so hard he made a big noise and told Spicy, "Oh my gosh, you're absolutely delighted to be with me." The woman stood tall like a true lady and waved a hand to Spicy, offering him his best wish. "I promise I'll never forget this wonderful deed." Spice feels lifted and his whole face lights up with pure excitement as he tries to find beauty inside himself. But it seems impossible to pull out at all. Just then, Spicy heard Chilson whispering in his own mind, "How does your little girl feel?" As he realized with shock, it was just a trick to send that message through his head. Chaos Sun lets Chaos down by asking Spicy what she thinks about Hyan's beautiful face, which surprises her just as she's barely back from taking a vacation. He asks Spicy to ask him about Hyan too, and while the man was utterly shocked by this bold question, his entire demeanor turned into a silent, cringing smile rather than an answer. Later, when Spicy finally went for a quick wash in the shower, she was left feeling a little chilled before her next adventure started. In a quiet room, the small, fuzzy tentacles of the centipedes rest on the floor as the man gets ready for his soak. Even Spicy is stunned to learn that the little guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Spicy told everyone that the water was scalding and would hurt their feet, yet a tiny centipede just decided to hide away from it right there, so he could have his own quiet moment without any trouble. The spicy food made his stomach jump, but he laughed at how the little bugs seemed to see everything and knew exactly what to do when they saw him. Spicy swims in the water and keeps playing with those tiny creatures that seem to have a mind of their own, just like they might talk back to him. Even though the little worms look like they're running away from his side, he's laughing because they're so close. He then recalls Goopai whispering about these spirit animals, though Spicy hasn't yet figured out exactly what they are, so he decides to call him back when the time comes. Then the boy caught up in that embarrassing memory of asking the son how he felt about his own daughter, and suddenly all the awkwardness faded away. The chaotic son meets with his family at the table, where the drama begins. He's telling everyone about how he's going to show Spicy his secret key to that special East Wing room in the estate. Kaiasen bursts into surprise when his father hears Kaion flatter Spicy for being a genius, so he questions whether the old man actually knows this guy's secret skills before giving up on him. Then Kaiasen reveals that while he once thought they met by accident, in reality, Spicy is a brilliant talent and an essential part of Kaiasen's life. The story continues with Qilon pointing out how Spicy excels, even when dealing with deadly monsters, finishing off the performance just with a rare, unliving spirit named Takunyang, who has made legendary spiritual creatures like the poison-feathered bird. Sean keeps telling him how amazing everything is, including how a little boy actually made sure the eggs were ready to hatch right from start, leaving Hayne and her mother completely stunned at what just happened. Chilson's father tells the whole truth. His son has discovered something far more valuable than gold. Chilson suddenly turns back to his daughter and demands something big from her, telling Hyan he wants her to become his wife, while Spicy takes on the title of son-in-law. When this idea hits Hainan's head, she immediately understands that her father is asking her to marry Spicy. She instantly leans back against the wall and stares at the pile of glowing red gems, realizing her secret weapon is finally ready for the mission ahead. Hin shook her head and slammed her hand down, shouting into the void, "You're telling me you're not part of this family?" She slammed the table hard as she told her father she couldn't take Spicy because he didn't do enough for her, even though he never did anything to deserve her. Wayne heads out of the meeting hoping to see exactly how Spicy feels about her own secret thoughts. Jolen's heart sinks as she sees Hayne looking adorable, But she can't let that charming look fool her. Despite the beautiful picture, she knows Spicy won't tolerate being treated like a piece of cake. She is on her way to see Spicy, but Hein knows the elders won't even hear her tell them about what she's done in the martial arts world. He decides he must find out who Spicy really is by learning how her character works and what she actually has to offer in every way. Heinein's suddenly jolted by a spicy shower and conversation with the centipedes when he appeared from the shadows, causing the guy to flinch. Wayne tells Spicy he is rushing because of the traffic and asks him why he's still at the diner, so I can get back on my feet. She stared hard at Spicy and said, "Give me your hand." Spicy screamed in shock and said, "Yes." He reached out for Huen's hand before a sudden click stopped him and pulled back. Hein looks up at Huen, feeling a mix of tension and excitement as he realizes what's really happening. The young man thinks he has the perfect time to propose because everything is waiting for him, but he hasn't even asked why Huan isn't already there to wait. Hein stared at the words Spicy said and then felt a sinking weight settle her chest. Suddenly, she realized Spicy had been so far off his guard. The spicy sauce didn't just make her grin. It convinced her she was actually quite shy right now. Then Hen explained she wasn't acting like a freak out, but she really just wanted to make sure Spicy was doing okay by checking his heart rate. Spicy was totally surprised to hear her tell him about the strange incident, because she already knew it was his fault and didn't want to see the awkward silence after the sudden date. She genuinely felt like a fool for making such a bold move when he wasn't sure if she meant something or just wanted some company. Hinata tried to apologize for acting so rude when she appeared suddenly without any excuse. Without a moment of hesitation, Huen speaks to Spicy, confirming that they are both still very young and lacking in knowledge for the moment. Hein has been waiting for the right moment to tell him everything. He turned his head slowly to see the tall man staring back at him with a cold, unsmiling face because Spicy knew exactly how to scare anyone if they don't believe their own words. Then Hen tells his story because she's the only one who can save her own bloodline from those dark schemes. And the elders are already plotting to bring in an able son-in-law, so they won't let it break down. Heinen pulls Spicy aside and says, "I've been waiting for you, but I'm afraid things aren't going to work out much better today." She promised to treat Spicy well, regardless of the outcome, because she knows he is her trusted friend and the very reason she cares about him so much. Spicy already knows exactly what she's driving toward, so he reaches out to tell her to confirm whatever it means for her now. She gasped and froze when Spicy agreed to the plan right in front of her, letting a tight knot form in her stomach before she hurried forward with everything she knew. Huen reaches out with a quick touch as she presses her fingertip against Spicy's wrist, feeling the warm pulse of life rushing through his muscle. Her soft blue glow glows from her body as she leads a sacred ritual, since the Tang clan's martial art isn't for everyone. Some people get poisoned and learn their way, while others stay stuck in the darkness. So the Tonglan's poison technique demands that one slowly adapt to the toxins until their inner energy grows strong enough. There are 5 different kinds of poison that people must face to reach true mastery, starting with just 1 level, then 2, 3, 4, or 5. Each level is a stepping stone toward becoming truly powerful. You can't escape this entire journey by choosing only the highest tier. You must climb every single one. She told him, after Hein finished reviewing Spicy's qualifications, that they all possess what it takes to master those dangerous skills. He could only master 10 deadly poisons because his own body was so weak that it barely reached the 10th tier of danger. Huen admits his ability to summon 10 deadly poisons is impressive because Spicy didn't even get born in the Tang clan. So Hunin says to Spicy, "By the way, my body is so strong I'm just barely a first-level martial artist." The girl handed her friends the spicy food and stood up to head out. She vanished, leaving Spicy alone and thinking about his own frailty. He feels so sick imagining a strong bird would actually fly for him. Later, Hyen realized she was carrying a terrible, foul-smelling body. She's been watching that inside of this blue-eyed centipede since she walked in. Honeywell even showers her every morning, yet that intense scent never truly disappears. Spicy did not save her life. Instead, he made a terrible choice and let her be treated with such harsh consequences just for being rude in front of him. Spicy was tossing and turning in bed while his mind drifted toward an exciting adventure. Hearing a sudden scream of pain, Hyen drops to the ground in front of him. With desperate tears in her eyes, she bows deeply, thanking the man who saved her from the worst mistake yet. He stared dumbfounded at the food spill and tried to figure out why everything looked so wrong. Just then, the girl spoke to Spicy and said, "You only borrowed Hane's appearance." And when the bell rang, she sat down to play hide-and-seek with a giant blue centipede instead of Hen. Spooky is stunned by the sudden shift in his perception because he can't really process what he's witnessing right now. Spicy found 3 tiny baby centipedes, and she was thrilled to see them. The spicy cat questions a tiny centipede how he's actually made it into her dreams. The little spider told me I was taken away by nothing but a whimper, so now my heart has grown cold, and I am trapped deep within the center of the earth. The centipede was finally allowed to curse Hyen, but before it could unleash its fury, a spark of hope ignited within the grudge that Hyen had planted against anyone who stopped her, just as that same spark also gave Herma the chance to wake up in Spicy's dream. Spicy found that making a big deal about saving the centipede's babies was exactly how he turned a bad day into a good one. And yet, right alongside his guilt, the centipede's whereabouts were stolen by him because he was the very person who gave them away, even if that act came too late to save it all. As the centipede spoke softly to Spicy, she knew exactly what he wanted for her. The spicy snake nudges its tiny feet forward like a game of chicken because it's ready to serve whatever the lady needs, no matter how much it wants to change her mind. Spicy's little kids will grow up safely by the time Centipede decides to spend their final days feeding them. Spooky is thrilled to learn that the giant spider has finally decided to stop following the tiny crawlers and go its own way, having learned to be completely independent as they molt off twice. The blue spotted admits this is right for regular centipedes, but not for the great her and her kids. Until those offspring shed their shells twice, they stay hooked by the flowing chi from their mother's inner core, then free to eat the true chi of other beings. It was a dark secret that finally revealed itself. Since Hen swallowed the very heart of a giant centipede, every single baby she feeds must keep an eye on her so they don't get lost in the middle. She told Spicy how the blue-eyed centipede warned him about Hyen and made sure he smelled bad from his very inside. The blue-spotted centipede watched carefully so nobody got near Hyen, keeping everyone at a safe distance from her. Shocked, the spicy eater stares as that little blue and spotted spider finally breaks down its story in front of him. However, the blue-spotted centipede holds a special promise for lifting its curse. She wants her children to keep absorbing chi from her inner core, which is now sitting inside Hyen, while Spicy can use this power to win Hyen's heart instead of giving it. Hen pauses to think about his decision, smiles sadly, and gently tells Miss Hyen she can't help her own problems anymore. She is stunned when the blue-potted centipede sees Spicy, admitting with a loud there that he is a truly and honorable guy. She's worried because Spicy wants to take over the situation right now, and Hyen is clearly looking for a tough guy to lead him on. The centipede agreed she'd love to help, but since she can't get the inner core of those 10 deadly creatures, her hands are tied. Spicy thinks instantly when he hears about those 10 deadly monsters. He then tells the centipede, "I've got a deal with you, but we need your trust for this." While she stares at what Spicy means, he tells her not to panic. He's ready to take care of things and believes it will all work out. Spicy sat at the table and told Hyen everything about the day. She's been so stunned that she realizes the foul scent in her skin isn't from any other source. It's actually the mess of her own inner core. So tell her how to turn on the spicy stove and watch those tiny creatures get eaten by you, just like they do when they are fresh and ready to go. Hen pauses and thinks hard before turning up his voice to ask Spicy, "I'm not sure I want you doing all this work right now." He knows Spicy might have wanted a raise, yet he's still waiting to make his own move. Spicy looked at Hyen with a big, happy smile and said, "You know I won't let anyone take advantage of her tough times. I'll hold you to my word." It suddenly hit Hyen like a huge rock in the room, completely stopping her speech and making her stare blankly at the wall for a long moment. Hyen finally spoke up, clearly saying to Spicy that her heart wouldn't break if he gave her a gift instead of just offering him his kind gestures. She realized for the first time that her father wasn't just right about what matters most. He was telling a story of greatness and truth. It's a quiet moment when Spicy whispers the secrets of his heart to Hyen so he can hear them clearly. Spicy thought to Hen about the dangerous toxin levels, knowing his own limit had nothing to do with it. He looks at Hyen with an excited smile and says, "I want you to pack my whole body into those deadly monsters from the middle of the plains." Hyen stares at the news as she feels a sudden spike of shock at hearing Spicy make such an incredibly important statement about him. Hyen finally sees where Spicy has reached and decides to stand right in front of the stars, so she can be the one who truly becomes strong on their own terms. The girl who turned bright red from so much blushing realizes this is the first time anyone has ever made such a confession to her, forcing her to ask Spicy if he knows what she just said before scratching his own head and saying he wasn't even aware of it. Hen tells him the road Spicy is about to walk will be incredibly hard and exhausting, and then adds it could take years or even a lifetime of work just to get through. Spicy freezes at the words and wonders if such a struggle truly demands that long. She can't even let go of everything Hen had said, so she keeps blushing as if nothing happened at all. He's telling Spicy this time. He only turns 15 next year and won't get married until then. Hin said that if Spicy could somehow defeat a single of those deadly monsters before her, then she would have no doubt about it. Maybe she hopes Spicy can finally handle it so they can get married someday. Hyen could no longer keep a secret from herself when it came time to leave the room. As if nothing could stop her, Spicy called out her name right as she was about to leave the room. Hein, with a bright red face, walks up and asks Spicy, "Do you still have anything you want to tell me?" The spicy hint told her to leave early so she wouldn't freeze in excitement. Instead, when she finally realized it, she took a step back and walked toward the place where she had been waiting. Spicy whispers to Hyen that the centipedes are truly harmless. Spicy gently handles the little spider babies as he explains they should go with Mom because Dad doesn't love them. Hearing Spicy is using that Mom and Dad picture to boost Hane's superpower. Spicy tried to clarify that he didn't mean exactly what Wayne said about the center of the world. In fact, he only said it because the tiny centipedes were still very young. Meanwhile, Chaos-sun and his wife gather around their grandpa for a chat about Huen and Spicy. They're shocked no matter how much Spicy is talented, he's still not showing the same desire. Yet, when their father looked at what they had been doing before, he thought it was a strange sign of change. Meanwhile, Hwan's mom still holds on to the news that Spicy was rejected by him. The trouble started when those 3 kids couldn't deal with the old man's plan, so he eventually said the wedding wouldn't make sense anymore. He thinks letting them grow up together will actually feel a lot better than forcing them to know each other right away. Chilin's wife suggested leaving Huen for Spicy, hoping their shared days would boost both of them into becoming stronger fighters. She thought this was a good plan, so Shirilon agreed to let her away. The old man decided first to talk to their wise healer, Sage, because he wanted the purifying elixir of marrow and essence given directly to Spicy, even though his own skills aren't quite up there yet. Kaiasen doubts that anything can ever be done for him, yet he insists on telling his father that Huen was equally talented and therefore Spicy will never get the credit back. Huen stepped through the door and began to talk excitedly about what he found inside. Chil-sun's shock is palpable when he sees Hu'in standing there. He immediately orders her to go inside, but it turns out that the whole family, his father, mother, and grandfather, are also watching him with interest. She's already here, so when the 2 of them see her, they all tell her what they have to say. A bright red-faced Huen stood up, his eyes full of fire, and whispered to his father, "I am ready now." Chilson stared wide-eyed as he heard the conversation, knowing exactly what Hyen was saying, but he kept his mouth shut to protect his son. Hin's mom jumps up shouting, "Hyen, you finally care about Spicy?" Hwan struggled to find a word, yet her face told the whole truth. The whole room gasped as they heard about Huen falling for Spicy, but chaos erupted inside because the person wasn't the kind of girl she thought was hers. Hyunjin suddenly showed why she had finally decided to switch her opinion about Spicy. A bright smile spreads across everyone's faces when Huen asks if she said Spicy had promised that she'd be the world's best, and their eyes light up with anticipation as they wait for her full words. Hyen smiles as he explains that his secret weapon isn't just a 10-pointed poison. It's the ability to kill over 10 deadly monsters at once. When the old man heard it, he laughed so hard he'd almost spill his drink. Her mom was thrilled to see him, telling her daughter, "Spicy has such guts," and saying they couldn't find anyone else with similar bravery. So Hunin says she's already in love with Spicy, but then insists he must catch a deadly beast first before he turns 18 before they can marry. Oh no, the Chaos boy gasped because he wasn't asked to pick 3 for his daughter. Yet Hyen's mom saw her daughter already made a decision about Spicy, and she knew that being too clever wouldn't help anyone figure out the real thing at all. So Hen asked his mom about the plan, but she politely told him not to do it because Spicy doesn't understand how things work yet. Her mother worried he'd try harder just to please her parents, which makes everything much more exciting for the boy next door. The old man then told Hyen to treat Spicy like a hopeful son-in-law and say nothing is serious at all. Meanwhile, everyone else pretended they didn't even know what was going on with the guy. Spicy's son feels so happy because Spicy has been working hard to join his family. Later that day, Spicy held a small talk with the blue-spotted centipede at work. Spicy tells the centipede he's got super buttery guts and lots of hard work, which makes his big jump on the Spider Queen look like a real win. The blue-spotted centipede smiles at Spicy with hope, knowing today could finally be her final day in life. She is finally letting go of anger, and that peace is about to take her all the way into the next world. And as she goes there, her inner power also dissolves right inside Hyen's heart. The blue-spotted centipede leans in, whispering to Spicy, "If you're done with me, let's just go home." She smiles confidently back at him, saying, "I'll make sure you never have to leave again, just as long as it's something I can do." He took the spicy heat with great care and slowly decided to make his final request. He tells the centipede that he wants to look at her body, But the creature isn't thrilled with it. She doesn't seem disappointed either, because Spicy is a man after all. Just as she's about to start taking off her covering, Spicy stops her. He looks down at the pile of wrinkles in her dress and whispers, "Really? So much." He feels a tightness in his throat as the fabric shifts under his touch. Now, the blue-spotted centipede looks bewildered as Spicy finally answers him with a clear explanation. He tells people that his real job is to watch the blue-spotted centipede take its natural look instead of turning it into a monster named Huan. A shy blue-spotted centipede trips over a rock and sees the news, instantly turning into a confused crowd. She jumps with wild enthusiasm and instantly turns into a terrifyingly large, bright blue spider. Spicy finds his mind full of wild excitement when she asks him, "What's so exciting about what you're staring at?" He shines with an electric smile, as if his heart has just jumped out of his chest to meet a baby spider in a world where her colors are just too bright. He shouts about the giant centipede and wonders if he can reach it, while Spicy is right in the middle of crushing her into a mess. Even when the scary centipede turns out to be cute in Spicy's presence, she keeps asking how strong the venom is and then asks if touching its fangs would be safe, even if it feels dangerous at first. Since she had already agreed to make every move Spicy wanted, she found herself with absolutely no other option than letting him reach into his mouth. And when Spicy's hands brushed against the centipede's tiny fangs, the little spider looked around to see what might happen next. Later, Chil-sun called Spicy to a family meeting and told him everything was already known because his daughter had already told him. The chilly son whispers his secret plan to Spicky, hoping it won't take another 3 long years before they are officially his in-laws. Chaos-sun finally tells his friend that the big event won't be until 3 more years later, which surprises everyone who was expecting him to just get married sooner. Even Hane's parents and grandparents welcomed him with a radiant smile as they heard Huan's match had already been settled, signaling that the entire clan was heading toward great wealth. He looked from spicy food to Heineen, seeing a girl who was completely fine with her family's tough talk. In his mind, though, he wondered how far they had actually gone before agreeing just for themselves. Spicy decides he won't let anyone make things too dramatic, so he lets his friends follow through on their own ideas about what they need to do next. Chilson beams with joy as he shouts, "We must start right away. But first, we need to find out if Spicy wants to see what happens next." The Spicy man immediately wants to find out exactly what this means, and asks his friends over for clarification. Kyosen bursts out laughing as the crowd starts shouting about a massive room filled with 10,000 deadly poisons, while his friend Chilson immediately tells Spicy that they are absolutely loving this place. The group breaks their silence as they burst into the room to begin their journey. Spicy is thrilled as he listens to the elder reveal that stepping up to the 10,000 poison table was a special tradition for his new family member. He says it with such excitement and looks forward to witnessing the event firsthand. He thinks the giant hall filled with poison will be so scary that he can't wait for the scary stuff to start gathering inside. "Oh my goodness," he gasped as he turned to look at the girl who was standing right in front of him. The way she looks right now brings out all the beautiful things inside her because the sunlight hits her perfectly. The fire in his eyes turns into an explosion of heat as he stares into the darkness of Huan's room, completely unaware that his parents are watching him from their own living room, where they find him suddenly frozen amidst the couch cushions. Chilson laughed and made a playful joke, trying to make sure Spicy didn't ruin Huan's pretty face by staring too long at her until she forgot to look back. He gently reminded Spicy that Huan is already his own woman, so he wouldn't need to stare so hard or be so distracted again. The Chill family made a loud noise while they teased their husband, who was trying to get the stage out of his shoes before he even saw Huan. They walked in slowly as a thick wall of poison walls opened for them at the end of the street. 3 tough and terrifying men stand guard at that doorway. They cheer and bow in awe when the leader finally spots them, ready to welcome his guest into their grand hall. Chilson steps out as the police arrive with the message, "Open the gates, son-in-law. We are here to show you our new 10,000 poison hall." The guards nod respectfully before turning their attention to Spicy, who finds himself surrounded by an incredibly tight security perimeter. The leader of the guards yells frantically at his men to pull back and open those heavy iron gates before they hit them all. The 2 muscular men grab the heavy iron door and jerk it open like a giant man pulling on a giant rope, both of them letting out a loud whoosh as they drag the metal apart with every ounce of muscle power they possess. The guard leader didn't just watch. His eyes lit up, and he couldn't wait for the doors to open any further because he knew the guard were already moving at a faster pace. The guards finally got their doors unlocked, but they soon gave up and fell into exhaustion. The chef is already looking into the dark hallway where his own face is hidden, so he can't see him anymore. As they step into the hall, Chaos tells Spicy that the iron gate was built with Kunyu steel from the south, making it one of the most prestigious honors possible even when the guards are running out of breath. Chilson steps into the hall and sees Spicy standing there, realizing that together they've arrived at a secret world full of deadly secrets, where only the Tanglan of Sichuan can keep them safe from all sorts of evil. The group begins their tour, opening doors one by one and revealing strange, hidden rooms as they explore the long hallway. The Grand Patriarch tells Spicy to stay calm and never touch things without thinking. Spooky notices how every jar holds a dangerous secret, pointing it out to Chilson, who insists the evil spirits are neatly sorted into special jars labeled for paralysis, sleep, or whatever else they need hidden away. Chilson feels a bit too busy and backs off, so he tells Hein to get the details out with Spicy so they can move on to something fun next time. She felt so thrilled when Hein agreed to let her dad do the shopping. Hein wastes no time before she drags Spicy away, and she tells him that she plans to show him the strongest poisons in the clan. She shows him the chi-dissipating poison, a substance that martial artists fear most. Once the poison enters his body, it renders inner energy unusable, making it very dangerous. As Hen and her friends wander through the halls, they watch their guardians stare down at them with pride, whispering how perfect this duo is to be seen together. The guide leads her on a tour of deadly secrets, starting with the alkanal poison that turns skin to ash, followed by necroizing poison that spreads like a black plague, then the spirit-destroying poison that drains life from enemies, and finally the bloody pole poison that leave you covered in gore before finally revealing the 7-step soul-snatching poison. Hein admits that all these poisons are potent, yet the clan's true power lies with something far more dangerous than any other. She reaches into one of the containers and brings out a tiny seed. She places it in Spicy's hand, and he assumes it is a bean because it looks exactly like one. Hein explains his ignorance, telling her that apart from the poisonous secrets of the 10 great monsters, the seed in Spicy's fingers holds the ultimate power to destroy everything. The storyteller reveals she has found this specific plant, which holds deep meaning as a symbol for the Tang clan, while the seed of its own nature comes directly from the caster. At that moment, Spicy realized his hand held the ricin seed, which could kill an adult with just 2 milligrams of it. This potent toxin was famously used in an umbrella assassination during the Cold War to crush a Bulgarian rebel, and even stronger than cyanide. Hein explained that the Tonglan's true favorite kind of poison was one so pure and clean they could never be found, which made them consider the rarest and most precious poisons in the world. It was a strange nickname they earned for that deadly potion. If anyone tried to kill them with it, everyone would call their fate just as terrifyingly dangerous as the very thing they were fighting against. Hein explained that true strength isn't about hurting people with pain or causing huge deaths, but rather about killing them quietly, fast, and completely unseen so they never have to worry about finding them or remembering how they were taken. Spiny's laughter echoed through the dim room as she revealed her secrets to the others, convincing them that their group might be just another pack of deadly killers. He finishes watching the poisonous creatures, and suddenly his grandpa pushes him toward the most dangerous ones, a decision that feels like a sudden adventure right before it begins. Spicy's excitement is palpable as soon as he hears this news, and even the older man lets him know his job might be to watch over venomous creatures if that sparks his interest. The elder then promises the clan will give him all the help he needs for anything he requires. Spicy is thrilled that the clan is ready to cheer him on for his new hobby. Gupai bursts out of the crowd just as the deadly monsters are approaching, sprinting back to tell Chelsean to go straight home before they get too late for the Black Tortoise Pavilion. Qilon was shocked when he heard Gupai explain how the clan elders had already arrived, prompting him to ask where they were heading next. When Chaos-Sun's grandpa asks for more information from his older relatives, Spicy quickly learns they must be the branches that Hein mentioned before. Then Gupai starts by shouting that there are really 2 problems. He handed over his sick medicine to the clan leader in Sichuan, but it had no effect on him, so he wrote a list of all the complaints that never got resolved. The elders are grumbling because their old hall is packed with over 10,000 poisonous herbs and hot peppers. The Grand Patriarch felt a jolt of surprise because news was spreading out loud in town right now. The group had no choice but to return to the pavilion before problems worsen. The elders have been sitting in silence at that famous Black Tortoise Pavilion, hoping the wise patriarch returns soon. The elders didn't wait long. They erupted into loud complaints right away after they got back home. The duo asked Kaiozan, "Why did you choose this path yourself?" And they missed the point because Cholin picked a child from nowhere to join in love with Hainin. Chosen heard something terrible and got very angry right away. He slammed his fists onto the table in rage, shouting to the elders that he was insulting his son-in-law, yet even Spicy gasped as he saw the truth behind what he had said. With a faint green aura swirling around him because he is mad, Chielson tells the elders that he is the one who made the decision and he doesn't think any of them should have a problem with it. The elders quickly turn to the Grand Patriarch, begging him to talk some sense into Kyolian. The town's leaders say they're so scared of letting a stranger handle the whole room full of deadly traps that they completely reject him as the right person to do their dirty work. As the story unfolds, High sees Spicy's face begin to crinkle with discomfort, prompting her to apologize, even though Spicy does not care about her words. He thinks the only right thing to do is go over and say sorry to the lady, because she was actually making up an excuse for his own mess. Just then, Spicy called out and drew all the guests' attention. He admitted he caused everything bad because he couldn't help doing it. Spicy stepped forward and asked the elders whether they would feel better if he showed off his talents and proved his worth, but the response came from shock rather than relief. It said that Spicy decides to begin his mission by tackling the problem facing the Sichuan city lord himself. Wayne and her mother got so mad after seeing Spicy doing something that he didn't want them to know about. Spicy rarely lets anyone disturb his quiet life as a pet owner, so he decides to be more than just a useless loser. He's prepared to take every move to show himself worthier. The loud clashing of spices had turned a quiet gathering into a storm, and suddenly everyone was shouting about how much they wanted to hear more. They scream as they tell the clan elders not to talk while Spicy tells the Sichuan lord he's in pain, and then Chosan says Spicy is just a reckless kid. The hard line between Hin and her mother can't be crossed when she hears the elders whispering they've been careful all along, because that's exactly how they do it. They just pick people from a respected martial family to keep things smooth. The elders keep chatting while Spicy watches them, wondering if they talk about things he remembers from a long time ago. Spicy was known for being such a funny streamer that everyone loved watching his endless chats while he roamed the globe, even though he only had fewer than 1 million subscribers on average and often watched over 3,000 people watch every single one of his videos. Spicy realizes that the elders haven't officially recognized him as their son-in-law, which forces him into a strange guest role. Standing in contrast to his former life, where he had an enormous fan base, he now constantly battles trolls who want only to cause chaos without any real reason. He stood tall before the elders with a grin, announcing that he had saved Huan's life, fought Bakta, and protected Chilin's soul all in one heroic act. He then questions whether insulting guests might be part of their customs, considering that what Spicy endured before this moment was far worse. After listening to Spicy get tough on them, the elders pulled back quickly and admitted they had shouted because they were in a rush out of nowhere. Spicy was thrilled that everyone had figured it out exactly as he planned, and even his old grandfather turned pale with shock at what a master cook he had been. When the old men asked who had fought Tak, they didn't trust him at all. Instead, Chan stepped forward and showed them his secret book from Tak himself, Blood Hand Poison Art. It was a crucial piece of evidence that tipped the scales against T. When the old people took a closer look at the dusty page, their eyes dropped wide as they discovered it was truly a real one. Chielson smiled as he watched Spicy lead the elders to see those tiny, invisible friends on the ground. The spicy stew serves as a delicious show for these colorful, tiny caterpillars, the babies of those blue spots. Chielson told the elders that his servant, Spicy, was finally making a big move and started stealing the stolen Takunyang for himself. The elders screamed in terror when Spicy saw a blue-spotted centipede, but his sudden calm turned the situation into a complete turnaround as everyone laughed at him. He continued to scare them with the living danger, proving that their very lives depended on avoiding Takunyang if they were bitten. The clan elders quickly changed their voice so that Spicy would finally hear them speak again. Grandfather suggested that they pause this matter while waiting for the son-in-law's arrival. He asked the elders why they wouldn't let Spicy walk into the hall filled with 10,000 deadly poisonings. So when the elders finally spoke up, they explained plainly, Spicy isn't even in the family yet, and they think he's way too young to cope with the many deadly threats at the hall. The grandfather finally realized he was right about the problem and immediately chose a very simple way to solve it himself. He asked Spicy to show off his cool skills, but the guy said all right. The Spicy cat tells the whole group that they must show their worth by stepping up to the top of the mountain, where everyone else has gone down and won't be coming back. They insist on solving the problem only by following the clan's traditional path, which is a dangerous route that will actually kill them all. Fear gripped the elders as they all believed Spicy would poison the city lord. Yet Spicy insisted it was actually a cure. He decided to send medicine specifically for the city lord, knowing that since his clan deals with poisons, he would follow their method instead of trying to stop them. On the next day, the grandpa wraps himself tight around Spicy and uses them to teach him the Tang clan's martial art, especially the 5 Venoms return technique, while Spicy is excited about it and wonders if he should start physical training as well. Spicy has to study how to use real-world cooking techniques, because the clan values practicality above all else. Grandpa puts down his old toolbox on the table and hands Spicy a bag full of fancy gadgets, throwing knives, darts, tiny needles, even a handful of cash that could start things off with nothing but a coin. He talked about all those hidden guns outside the box, but they all fit into these 5 main groups. The grandfather pointed a finger at Spicy and asked, "If you're going to be the easiest weapon to handle among everything here, do you know which one?" Spicy nodded eagerly and said, "It's either that dagger or this throwing knife." The old man then agreed with him, confirming his choice. Spicy tells me the powder was hard to work with because he'd had to spread it out carefully while I watched him try. Grandpa firmly told him he's mistaken, saying that actually, the hardest weapon is a tiny needle. The Spicy guy was surprised by this fact and asked why it would be so tough just because it's small and thin. But Grandpa insists these aren't the sole causes for why it's so tough. He explains the real problem lies in remembering precisely where he dropped the needle, just like the old man said before. Grandfather steps forward so the young man won't be mistaken for the older person next to him. Then he pulls out his own brush to show what he's going to do with it. He then tosses the ball into the sky, and everyone gets scattered everywhere at once. The soft bristles of the grandfather's beard felt like a gentle shower of rain. Yet as he spoke, they seemed to pierce through their own hair with tiny needles. While Spicy's stomach is hammering with panic as he tries to move on, his grandfather gently pats him out and tells him the Tang family possesses a secret magic where a single flower can shoot down clouds of poison so they don't get hit at all. The clan's secret art turns millions of tiny needles into a shower of colorful petals that blanket their entire courtyard. Spooky is so terrified when he finds himself forced to hold up a whole street like that, fighting for everyone's life in one place. He tells the old man about these dangerous threats before anyone else gets hurt, yet he knows no room will ever be available to escape them. The old man checked his watch and told Spicy, "This place matters when you need to remember exactly where those tiny pins are, or they might accidentally tip over your hand." The Spicy drink tastes like a game, so the guy checks where his arm has moved against the opponent's stick before answering, "Yes." Grandpa taught us that with a body holding 50 poisonous magic spots, we need to memorize at least 100 positions before we could even get started. Once Hyan hit 10 of those spots, she could hold up to 1,000, and when Spicy was completely blown away by all the new knowledge, he finally decided to retire to his tired room. A few days later, Wayne walked into his apartment wearing the exact clothes for catching bees, complete with a net and gloves. Meanwhile, Spicy was heading out to hunt a hornet, so they had a nice morning together in one room. Spicy's outfit was so tight and hidden that he told Hueen, "We're going to be able to catch this big hornet on our own." The Spicy food joins a pair of lovebirds who are about to part ways. So, when one asks the other whether the hornet's nest can be found near it, they both agree that it is right there. Hyan then asks Spicy,